Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, wherever you are. It's Wednesday, and I'm Ron Williams, and it's noon on Central Standard Time. And every Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time, I hop into our groups, which we're now multiple groups that we're broadcasting to, and want to try to give a little bit of value and a little bit of um, something helpful that you can take and implement in your business today, this week, if you're trying to grow a business in residential new construction sales and marketing. And I tell you what, it's an area that has just become an absolute fascination for me. I love learning, because I learn from you guys all the time, and being able to hopefully share some value with you guys. So every Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time, I'm going to hop in here and try to do a little short snippet on one aspect of selling and really growing your business as a realtor in new construction. I know in our groups, a lot of the people that are joining these days are not just realtors, but also builder sales reps and home builder marketing people and mortgage and others. And I'm so happy for everybody that's joining. I want to say, first of all, welcome to everybody that's joined the New Home Niche Blueprint group in the last week or so. I don't say it often enough, but I greatly admire and respect you guys, and would love for you to get engaged in the groups. Bring your voice, bring your perspective. We're all learning from each other. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, because we're going to start broadcasting to LinkedIn as well, the groups are on Facebook. If you want to join, I'll put a link here. I'll put a couple links here to show you where you can join, and would love to have you join us as well in our Facebook groups. And here's one of them right here, I think. Yes. All right, there it is. New Home Niche Blueprint. Nope, that's not it either. I'll give it to you at the end. So, okay. All right. Well, good morning, guys. And I wanted to hop on today and talk about a topic that I absolutely love to talk about with professionals in the industry, because I think it's so important. And the header you can see there is, how did we put that? The value, discovering unique value that you can provide as a realtor in new construction. And when I wrote this down and said, I really want to talk about this topic. Honestly, when I look at it, though, I mean, it could be a whole 3-day workshop just on this one thing. And because there's so many aspects of providing value. What is value? And how do I provide value? And it's interesting because the value that you bring to the marketplace when you're talking about residential new construction, the value that you provide, first of all, is dependent on the target audience that you're going after and that you're trying to serve, and what their problems are. And that target audience, that group of prospects that you want to provide some amazing value to as a realtor in new construction, it differs. If you're talking to a buyer, if you're talking to a builder, if you're talking to a builder sales rep, it even differs if you're talking to a large production builder or a mid-sized builder developer or a small builder. And so there's a lot of different segments and a lot of different roles that you're approaching as a realtor when it comes to new construction. Again, buyers, small builders, mid-sized builders, large builders, builder sales reps, builder marketing people. So there's a lot of different parties that you could focus in on, and each one of them has a little bit different angle on what they need from you, what they want from you as a realtor. And I got to tell you, this concept, when I start to think about the value that you provide as a realtor in new construction, the perspectives on this are so stinking misaligned. From one realtor to another, from one builder to another, from one sales rep to another, in market to market. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Hey, before I jump into this a little bit further, and I got a couple ideas I want to share with you today in the next few minutes, let me just say, let me give you something here. If you're on with me today, would love for you to go or do it some other time even, but go click on this link at the bottom, which is, what is it? Facebook.com/StreamYard, and go open that up in a new tab and just click accept. And once you do that, then you can message back and I can see who you are. You can message right now wherever you are and I'll see it, but I won't know who you are. And so if you like to not be anonymous, which I would love, if you engage with me on this, I would greatly appreciate it. So I'm not just talking to myself here. So go click on that and join up. And then once you do that, you're good. Any other time you hop in on one of these sessions, that your name's going to come up and I can honor you by speaking your name and recognizing you. So all right. So what I'm talking about this morning is the role that you play as a realtor when it comes to new construction and the unique value that you represent. And again, you represent a different value to a buyer than you do a small builder or a mid-sized builder or a large builder or a builder sales rep or other people in that builder sales and marketing community. Every one of them has a slightly different angle about what you provide and what you should provide. And our perspectives on this are so misaligned that it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. This morning, I've had 3 conversations. And if any of the 3 conversations happen to wander onto this presentation I'm doing right now, you probably recognize it, because I've had 3 different conversations this morning alone with both builders, people on the builder side as well as the realtor side, about this very topic of what is the role of the realtor in the new construction transaction. And lest we think that it's a one-sided issue, because a lot of times realtors will say, well, I'm not being treated right, or I don't trust the builders, or there's a lot of different things that are going on in our experiences with each other: builder to realtor, realtor to builder, realtor to builder sales rep. And so there's a lot of different experiences and a lot of misaligned understanding, let's call it that, of what my job is, what your job is, and how we need to work together. And because there's this misalignment of what my job is, what your job is, on both sides, and if you think it's just one-sided, it is not. I'll tell you that right now. It's not a one-sided issue, because builders have a perspective on it, and their perspective is not wrong, and neither is yours. Okay. Sometimes, some of us are wrong, but more than anything, there needs to be a better alignment in what's my job as realtor, your job as realtor, what's everybody's role. Because when we do that, number one, you're going to be more successful. You're going to close more deals. Those deals are going to go smoother. Those transactions are going to go smoother on both sides. And most of all, we all need to come together and do a better job on behalf of who? I know you know it. I know you know it. Say it, speak it. What is it? We have to do as quality a job as we can on behalf of the buyers, because they deserve it. Building a house is such such an amazing, joyous experience for everybody that builds a new home. And most buyers that we interview, they refer to it as kind of a life experience. Like, Well, when we got married, now you'll hear him talk about it. When we got married, we didn't know what to expect. When we had our first child, we didn't know what to expect. When I bought my first car, well, this is a lot more complex than buying your first car. It probably is equally complex to becoming a parent or becoming a spouse. But, building a new house is arguably the largest, most complex purchase than anybody ever makes. And the numbers of buyers who are buying a new home is spiking. It's going up, up, up. There are more and more people, and there have been for many years, about 60% of people. Well, let me put it this way: for every one person that builds or buys a brand new home, whether it was from the ground up or it was a spec home that was already done, they just need to pick the color of the cabinets and the doorknob. Regardless, it used to be that about 10% of people would build a new home. That number is going up. 10% of all buyers. But when surveyed, it's actually closer to 60% of people that say they would rather have a new home than a used home. So there's a big window of opportunity here for everybody, for the builders, for the realtors, for everybody. But we've got to do a better job at serving these people. So there's one concept that I want to share with you that has to do with the idea of being a mediary. So when I think about, what are the value, what's the unique value that you provide, there are many things that we could talk about on the part of a realtor, the value that you could provide. I'm going to share with you one other document here that you ought to grab a copy of. Let me see if I've got this queued up. There it is. Okay. Scrolling across the bottom. If you don't have this already, go get yourself a copy of it. And what this particular report is, and it's at newhomenicheblueprint.com. So that's different than the Facebook group that you're in, if you're in the New Home Niche Blueprint Facebook group. But go grab a copy of that document, and it's a report of the 7 biggest problems that new construction buyers report having when it comes to building a new home, right? And the more you want to, if you really truly want to serve new construction buyers, you need to understand what their problems are, so you can step into that buyer journey and meet them where they are. We don't want to be trying to solve problems that they really don't have. We don't want to be offering, and the same is true with not just with the buyers, but also with builders and developers that we're wanting to add value to. So the particular concept I want to talk to you about today is just a very simple one, and it's the idea of being an intermediary. And kind of the way that I want to get at this is actually to tell you real briefly a little history that I had before I was a realtor, before I specialized in new construction, before I was the founder of Hoodle. So long time ago, before you guys were born probably, I had a long career as a executive recruiter, as a headhunter. And I recruited for companies all over the United States. I did very well with it, did it for a long time, and became quite successful, in doing these type of roles, this type of interaction. So here, as a realtor, you represent, and I'm coming back to our topics. I haven't forgot we're talking about realtors here, but as a recruiter, you represented a company who wants to hire somebody, and you represent somebody who is considering being hired, a candidate and an employer. And my job in the in-between is to make a good match between those two parties. And the job of a realtor or realtors is very much the same, is that you are looking to create a great experience for both a buyer and a seller. The interesting thing, though, that has always fascinated me about real estate from the day I got into it, is that real estate is a little bit different. It doesn't need to be, but there's an underlying philosophy that, well, you can't serve both of those parties. You can't serve the buyer and the seller. And a lot of people are dead set against it. And there's a belief that you're going to help somebody win and somebody else is going to lose. That's the way negotiation works. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And so I have to represent one side or the other and make my side win and make the other side lose. And the fascinating thing to me about that is that's not being an intermediary. You may think that you're negotiating, but you're negotiating a win-lose situation. And we may not do that consciously, but underlying the whole premise of real estate is, this idea, and in some areas, you're not supposed to do dual agency. That was the whole way that the whole recruiting industry operated and has since the 1950s or 1960s when it started. And by the way, that is the way a lot of negotiations operate, is that you have one intermediary that's creating what we call it, a win-win situation between both parties. So I was dead set against this idea coming into real estate that, okay, I can only represent one side because I'm going to make sure one wins and one loses. And my side's going to win and the other side's we're going to get them, And if I represent the seller, I'm going to beat down those buyers. And if I represent the buyer, I'm going to beat up that builder. I'm going to beat up that seller. And the problem with it is that it plays itself out in some really weird ways when it comes to new construction. Weirder, in fact, than when we're selling a pre-owned home or used home, right? Because what happens is realtors have this as their philosophy. The real estate industry has it as a philosophy. You represent the buyer or you represent the seller. I believe you can represent both. I believe that always we're working towards creating a win-win relationship. In fact, it's not just a win-win, it's a win between the seller, win for the buyer, and a win for you, right? So it's a win-win-win. You have to win as well. You cannot be in a role or relationships or abusive relationships where you're making this person win or that person win and you're taking advantage of the others, or they both win and you lose. None of that works, and none of it has to be. So here's the problem. Because we have that philosophy, and because realtors very often are trained in this win-lose kind of scenario, many times, tell me if you've ever experienced this, guys, and if we got any builders on here, I want to hear your perspective as well. But tell me if you've experienced this where, and in fact, I just talked to a builder rep this morning, messaging back and forth, and who was telling me, yeah, I used to be a realtor and now I'm on the builder side. And it's so interesting in working with the realtors because they don't know how to operate when it comes to new construction. And one of the things that happens is, hey, Martin, I'll pull up your comment in just a second here. Thank you for being here, Martin. But one of the things that happens is because we have this underlying philosophy that I represent the buyer, that means I gotta take down the builder, and so we're coming at this relationship with just a bad mojo to begin with, of mistrust and lack of cooperation. And so many times realtors, and I hear it from builders all the time, I even hear it from realtors, where realtors will come in and they're going to try to beat down the builder, get my buyer more. And, the fact of the matter is builders have fixed cost. They've got to pay their staff. They've got to pay for that lumber. They've got to pay for the refrigerator. They got to pay for everything. And that doesn't mean that there's not leniency, that there's not flexibility, and there are not things that you can negotiate. But it's a lot less in many cases than, not always, but in many cases, there's a lot less to negotiate than what the realtor is aware. And the realtor is, I'm gonna be the white knight for my for my buyer. And part of it, I think, too, comes out of not only misunderstanding, but it also comes out of insecurity. That a lot of times the realtors feel like, well, I'm not, and I hear it all the time, Ron, I'm not really sure what value I do provide. So I'm going to beat somebody up today, and prove my value to the buyer. Not so much. Okay. Here, let me get Martin in here. Martin says, if you use the consultative selling process correctly, yes, you don't have to worry about being a dual agent and feeling bad about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree with that, Martin. You know, we could do a whole session on that sometime, and probably ought to bring you on and interview you with your experience about that. But so on the one hand, you have realtors that are trying to do too much. They're trying to reach too far, and they don't know, and we don't know a lot of times, where is that line? And when have I crossed it? When it's like, I'm trying too hard now. Okay. In fact, you can very easily try so hard that you're no longer adding value, but you're subtracting value. You're like, okay, you're causing more conflicts than need to be, in your attempt to provide value to the buyer. And so you have that on the one hand, and on the other hand, you also have with realtors an idea that, well, I don't know where that line is. I don't know what the value is I provide. So I guess what I just need to do is just, register these people and then run away, and show up at the closing table and get my check. And in fact, there are trainers who train that that's what you should do, that you should just register your person and sayonara, and see at the closing. And you know what? And I don't think that that's right either. It's not, because then you're not really representing the buyer. You're not really being their guide through this big, difficult, scary journey. You're not being a fiduciary. Your value as a realtor is more than just putting their name down on a registration sheet and then see ya, good luck. And I know probably nobody in here does that. But I also know that a lot of realtors are trained that that's what they ought to do, and that's not correct either. So it's not push too much. It's not pull back and don't provide anything. There's some ground in between. And a lot of it is wrapped up in this idea of being a mediator. My job is to create a win-win-win between all parties, okay? You can't remove yourself from it either. Okay, so that is part of it. You are part of it, but it needs to be a win for the buyers, a win for the seller, and a win for you. And when you do that, you not only are making the process much more enjoyable, much more effective, but you're creating lifelong business partners with builder sales reps, with buyers. You become the go-to resource that they want to work with, because it's not about beating one side down or the other. Now, to be fair, a lot of times realtors, experience with builders where the builders are going, you know what, Joanne, you know what, John, I'm not talking to any particular John or Joanne, but you know what, realtor, hey, tell you what, you just register them and we'll see you at the finish line. And so we do get that message from time to time from the builder sales rep. Why? Because their experience has been, I tell you what, last time we had a realtor that was pushing too hard, they just almost messed up the deal. They almost broke the whole process from working, and it happens. So to be fair, we're getting mixed messages from different builders too. And again, you may work with a big production builder where they've got their process down. They know all of their products. They know their bundle, their package of for every particular home. They know what the incentives are. They know where their flexibility is and isn't. And and so if they've had bad experience with realtors, sometimes they're just saying, hey, you know what, just sign them up and we'll get you paid. We'll see you at the finish line. But that's not right on behalf of your buyer. Okay. You are a fiduciary. You are a guide. You are, and you need to be a trusted resource for the buyers, if not the builder and developer, throughout that entire process. And those experiences and their perspective is going to vary from builder to builder. It's going to vary if it's a production builder that really, man, we've got our process down, or you start to work with more of a mid-sized builder developer who is developing their process, they're getting organized, or if you're working with a team of 2 or 3 or 4 people and they're scrambling to keep things done. And so there's a wide variety of value that you can provide. One of the things that I've done is that you can find in the New Home Niche Blueprint group, or message me if you can't find it, but there's an interview that I've taught many times to realtors about how to interview. It's a 9 or 10 question interview that you do with a builder or developer to identify from them, what is their expectation about this relationship? What do they want to experience from you? What would they, what would they define as being an outstanding experience with working with a realtor? Who they want to partner with. And I tell you what, when you do this 5 or 10 times, it is incredibly powerful because you begin to understand a lot of stuff that you didn't understand before. Maybe we thought we understood, but we didn't. Okay. And so it's very important for us to ask those questions. But well, let me wrap this thing up. That the important point here is that we are creating a mutual win experience. And one other thing is, that we have to keep in mind is that the goal of the builder is different than the goal of you as a realtor. Okay. Their goal, your goal is to sell and to help your buyers achieve the very best outcome that they can possibly achieve. The right neighborhood, the right builder, the right floor plan, the right price, the right mortgage, the whole thing. Okay. That is your responsibility as a fiduciary and a guide. However, the salesperson on the builder side has a little bit different perspective. Their job is, hey, we want to make sure that the buyer has the best possible outcome in our neighborhood with our models, our floor plans, our products, right? And so it's different. And because of that, there's kind of a natural, I don't want to say animosity, but differing objectives, right? Your objective is, I need to make sure it's the right builder and neighborhood and floor plan for the buyer. Their objective is, we want that buyer, we want to get this deal closed. So you're kind of in a unique role here as a realtor, as an intermediary. But the big thing that I want to share with you is remember that your number one responsibility is not to beat down one side or the other. In fact, I had many times where I had buyers that were trying to convince me, because I worked for them as a realtor, to go beat up this builder for me. I want that builder to give me a bonus room. I want a finished basement. I want a, cantilevered second story, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, real experiences, guys, that were going to cost the builder $10,000, $20,000 extra. But that was back when it was cheap, maybe more. And hey, just throw it in because, we're the buyer. We're going to tell you what to do as the realtor. And so there are times, I'm not recommending you do this willy-nilly, but there were times when I had to let go of a buyer, or at least I had to have kind of a, come to Jesus moment with them and say, look, what you're expecting from the builder is not only is it not going to work, but it's not right. That builder has to pay for what they have to pay for. And so, you do have those instances where buyers are pushing you to, you work for me, and by gosh, if you don't work for me the way I want you to work, then I'll just go find another realtor. And so that's probably a whole other conversation. But here's the message that I want to get across to you guys. And I want to share this with everybody, whether on the builder side or the realtor side. Okay. But I'm talking to realtors primarily. We have a responsibility as professionals in this big, amazing process of building a dream home that few people get to experience, but many, many would like to. And when we're providing unique value, okay, when we're looking at what is my role in this overall process, I want you to remember this one thing, this one underlying concept, and that is your job is to be the intermediary. Your job is to make sure that it is a win, win, win. Okay. And the sooner you take ownership of that, and not just take ownership, not just know it in your heart and your mind, but begin to articulate it out loud. Write it down, and begin to articulate it and find out and figure out, how do I articulate this with real words, to a buyer and to a builder and to a developer and to the builder sales reps. how do you articulate this in a non-offensive way? But hey, here's my underlying value. Here's my underlying philosophy in creating this new home experience for these people. Is I want to make sure that it's a win-win-win, because John, my goal is to create wins not just for them, but for you and for me and for us in an ongoing business relationship that I'd like to have with you. So that's really all I wanted to share with you guys today. And I probably overdid it and beat that horse to death anyway. But if you're here today, would love to and would like, if you've seen this video and you'd like to connect, reach out to me. Send me an Insta message wherever you are on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and would love to talk to you more, learn about your business particularly, and kind of where you are in your business trajectory, whether you're on the builder side, builder sales rep, or realtor side, or mortgage. Would love to connect with you and see if there's ways that we can add more value to you. But also, if you're somebody that would like to be interviewed, if you'd like to be considered to be interviewed, we're starting to do new interviews. And I'll close out with this, okay? Because we've got a couple new interviews that are coming up here in just the next few weeks. We're starting to do interviews with building industry thought leaders. And so got 2 of them lined up right now. I've got about 6 more that are in the works that are wanting to, that have agreed to be interviewed. People that are going to add so much incredible insight and value to you, whether you're on the builder side or the realtor side or whatever part of this home building process you're in. We're starting to bring in thought leaders in the home building industry to be interviewed. And the first one that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, and we're still nailing down the date, is a gentleman by the name of Steve Hoffaker. If you haven't met Steve, he's one of the foremost professionals in the United States on the topic of age-in-place buildings, so new construction where you're dealing with aging issues that are, just exploding because all of us baby boomers are getting near retirement. And it's actually a niche market that you could specialize, many people could specialize in, and very few even know that it exists. But there's a big, big need for it. And so I'll leave it with that right now. We'll be announcing when Steve's coming in, and we'll interview him on either Wednesday or maybe at another special time, but it'll be a longer interview. And again, just trying to provide value. If you'd like to be interviewed, or if you know somebody that would or would like to be considered for it, please reach out to me and let me know that. Otherwise, listen, guys, let's go out there this week and let's make a better experience for each other, okay, but most of all for the buyers. Okay, so let's figure out how we can align our understanding of the role, and don't just walk into a transaction and assume that we're all on the same page. That's probably the wrongest, I don't even know if it's a word, that's one of the really wrong things that we could do. One of the really right things that we could do is to address that and say, here's my understanding, here's my perspective. And so first you need to define, what is your perspective? What is your perspective about your role as a realtor in this big experience, in this buyer journey, and learn to articulate that to both sides, to the buyer and to the builder. And when you do this, it'll absolutely eliminate many problems, future problems that just tend to pop up later on down the road if we don't discuss it. So when you learn how to articulate it, maybe we'll do a session on this one at some other time, because it's a really important issue on how to articulate that and how do you define here's the way the way that I work, here's what's important, and to have that conversation with builders and with buyers. And when you learn to do it, this is, as Martin said earlier, I mean, a lot of this that I teach is very advanced consultative selling process. It's a much different way of doing it. It feels much more natural, much more valuable to everybody, and that's what we all want. So, guys, thank you so much for spending the time with me here today. If you know somebody that wants to join up, wants to learn new construction, invite them to join the New Home Niche Blueprint group. And if you haven't already, go grab that report down at the bottom at newhomenicheblueprint.com, and with that, I think I'll wish you guys a great day. Have a wonderful week. Be amazing. We'll talk to you later. Bye.